Hello my friends, John LaRuffa here with another strip solo, and in this episode we are going to take a look at Urbion. I'm going to show you how this is played. I'll talk a little bit about the expansions that go in the game as well, and then I'll let you know what I think. All right, let's get started. Okay folks, and as usual, please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. If you have, I really do appreciate the support. Thank you very much. So you're going to start the game like this. You're going to have 4 of these city cards drawn out, and each of these city cards has 2 of the 4 icons on them. On both sides they're duplicated, but there's these 4 elements, okay? So air, water, fire, and earth. And to start out, well, I should say this, to win the game, your objective is to achieve perfect balance of positives and negatives cards on both sides of these cities. And then when you discard a card, you can do a census, and if they're equal, then the value, then you will score the city card. And you're trying to score all these plus these here and score everything. If you score everything, you win the game. Now before I go any further, let me set up the game by doing what you do in the beginning of the setup, which is you draw 2 cards for each city. And all the positives have to be over here. All the negatives will have to be over here. And if you draw any of these chaos cards, you have to put them on the highest side, okay? So if there's already a card on one side that's higher than the other, you put it on that side, throwing things out of balance. So here's, we draw this, that's a 2 plus 2. And in the setup, it does not matter what these icons are, okay? Looks like we're getting a lot of positive cards out here. Okay, that's 6. I shuffled these, I swear. Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay, well, I really did shuffle them, but that is the weirdest thing ever. Okay, so basically, that's how we started. I swear I shuffled them. And now we deal 4 cards to our hand, these hands of cards. Oh, as soon as you get one of these in your hand, you have to put it someplace. So I have to put it on the highest side, and that would be the 6, and it would be at the top here. So I have to put this positive 6 over there. That's a chaos card, okay? So here we've got our 4 cards. All right, now these are the cards in our hand over here, okay? And as you can see, they have different symbols on them. All right, these symbols have correspond to the cities you can play with, and they have different values, okay? And again, what you're trying to do is you're trying to play cards into the city to balance things out. Now, if you decide to discard a card without playing it into a discard pile, you could call the census, which means if you have an equal positive and negative value over here completely, you'll discard all those cards and you will score the city card, okay? If you have a partial situation, like for instance, let's say the census was called right here and I have this -2 and +2, I can just discard those 2 only and move everything else in, keep the city card out, keep the other cards. And that can help you whittle down some of the problems because you are limited to only 3 cards on each side max. And if you have nothing, no synergy or anything else, you just skip the card, you go by it. Then once you have scored the cards, you put out a new city card for everyone that has been taken care of, okay? And then you have to draw 2 more cards off the top of the deck over here to continue on playing. And then you finally restore your hand to 4 cards. The other thing you could do is you could discard a card from your hand and simply swap 2 cards on the same side. So I could swap, let's say, this 4 with this 2 if I wanted to for whatever reason, okay? And maybe that would help me out. So it's one big math kind of problem. Now, let's say I draw one of these cards to go in my hand. I have 3 options. I can play it like I just did to the highest side of the city, or I could discard it and I could take a balanced city and discard all the cards from the balanced city. So that means I would basically wipe out the progress there, but I would not discard the city. Or I could discard that card and I could draw 4 off the top of the deck and have to discard them. And if I drew any of these cards, I have to play them. And so it's kind of a risk. You want to throw the city out of balance? Do you want to discard progress? Or do you want to risk it by just discarding that and discarding 4 cards, hoping you don't draw another one? Because if you do, well, then you have to start the process over. And so you don't want to do that. Now, you're trying to score all of these city cards and this whole deck, exhausting every one of them before you run out of cards. If you try to draw up to 4 cards and you don't have the ability to, you automatically lose the game. If you immediately, as soon as you would score your final city card, you immediately win the game. And so that's kind of how it goes. Now, this game is pretty simple, but there are a lot of expansions, which I'll talk to you about after I play a couple of rounds, that change the game and make it more thinky, or just put wrinkles into things and make it a little bit more challenging to win. Not that it isn't challenging to win in the first place. Now, one thing I didn't talk about is if you happen to have all of these cards balanced and you do a census and literally score all 4 of those cards, you will discard the top card as a bonus for free and score that. So you can actually get it's called a perfect balance, and that's a way for you to get more than just the one. So there's really a push your luck kind of game here. All right. Now, so let's go ahead and get started here, and I'll just show you a couple of turns, and then you can kind of see what it's like to play the game. All right. So let's put this 2 over here, and we'll put it up top here to try to balance things out. Start to go there. Oh, perfect. Here's another one. So now these are in perfect balance, okay? Now, what I can do, and I'll do it now just to demonstrate, is I could discard this card right here, which is a +4. It doesn't matter, but I could discard it. And then these cards are in perfect balance. +4 here, -4 over there. Oh, and by the way, I couldn't play them there. Shoot. I have to play them over here because the fire symbols match the fire. There is no fire up there. Sorry about that. Just got a little carried away. So these are still in perfect balance, 4 and 4. So let's go through this column here real quick. Here I have no balance, I skip it. Here I have no balance, I skip it. Here I do have balance. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to discard these cards. Whoops. Score this. And then here I have no balance, I skip it. So then I will draw a new card and I will add 2 of these. Oh, here we go. So I can either add it on, I can't add it here. This city is balanced. So this has to be added to either this city or this city. I can't put it here because of the largest side, okay? So I got to put it in a spot that's biggest. And I believe I can't add it there. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure I have to add it to the largest side of this city. Okay, so let me just be sure of that. Here, hold on a second. Yeah, I believe that I have to add it to, I can't just put it on one side or the other. I have to put it to a city that's imbalanced on the strongest side. Because it says, place this chaos card next to a city card on the more powerful side. So we'll place it up there, okay? We're still trying to draw 4 here. 1, 2, okay. Now I'm gonna refill my hand. Okay, -3, that's good because I could put this over here if it was the right symbol, and it is. Because remember, when you refill the city, you disregard the symbols, but when you're playing the card, you have to match it. So this earth symbol matches, and now that's in balance. That's good. So I'm happy about that. A +2. +2 does not help me one bit. So I'm tempted to just score again because I've got nothing here but a bunch of positive cards. So what I'll do is I'm going to do that again. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to discard this. I will go ahead and score these 2. I'd like to do better, but I just need more opportunities to come out there. Okay, and then we have this card. So let's go ahead here. Here's a -3 and a -2. Okay, now we refill our hand. And so you keep playing like that. And the whole thing is that you're trying to manage. You only have a certain amount of cards. Look, I mean, I'm already getting through this deck pretty fast here. So you have to do a lot of work in a short amount of time to balance it all out. And that's how you play. Very simple to play. Very fun and quick to play. Really, it's a 15-minute game or so. Now, let's talk about some of these expansions that you want to add if you want to have all sorts of, there's 7 different expansions. So once you get comfortable with the base game, you can do a lot of different things. First, let's just talk about this one. This is called the Chromatic Chaos. So the Chromatic Chaos, you add these to the deck. This is 8 more Chaos cards. They're not as strong. They're not +5 or -5. They're +4, -4. But when you play them, you can put them on either side. Okay, so you actually don't have to put them on the largest side when you get these. Okay, however, if you have to immediately draw and play the next card right out to the city. So you kind of like push your luck more there where you're going to get whatever you get that's out in the city. There are expansions here that let you have like wild card cities, okay? But then they add in like less flexible cards, like single-use cards. So these are only for the air, but you can flip them around, plus or minus. It's up to you. There's expansions like that. There's expansions like this where there is single-only cities, so they're harder to score, but you get the plus minus one, and these are wild. They can go on either side, so you can play with those. And when you add these to the game, you can add any number of expansions as you want. So you can make the game longer. You can switch out different expansions. Lots of different things there. These, you basically will use these as special abilities throughout the game. And you have, for each special ability you reveal, you then would have to discard 4 cards from the deck, making the game shorter. And to trigger those, you have to do some special, I think you have to discard 2 cards at once to trigger those special abilities. This has some really weird stuff. These have postcards, which the rules for these are somewhat complex. I haven't played with these yet, but basically you have to achieve balance in the stack of city cards, and there's ways to trigger them. And they'll also give you these wizard cards here. Actually, they're not called wizard cards. They're called something else. Let me see what they are. They're not the wizards. What are they called? Sorry about that. They are called wise chaos cards. And so those do other things. They trigger different bonuses or different abilities. You can play with this deck here, which has no cities or no things on them. You have to do something special to discard these city cards because they're blank. But then they give you extra cards to work with, so they give you a little bit more time. And there's ways to discard those. And then there's also this icon right here, this guy. And here you put these cards in a way that you basically have to make. This makes the game harder and puts an even more stringent kind of timer on things. So lots of different variety that you can play with in a very small box. So let me tell you, I basically taught you how to play the base game. Let me tell you what I think about it. Okay, so that is Urbion. And I'll tell you this game seems to do away with some of the more annoying things in some of the other ones. And I shouldn't say that, because there are a lot of really cool things in the Oniverse games. There really are. But this one contains, I think, all the fun stuff and not some of the like shuffling that you have to do with certain ones or other things where you have a little bit more like memory side of stuff and you're manipulating the decks a little bit more. Those are fine, but they can be very fiddly. This one doesn't do any of that, but still provides a lot of fun and kind of like distills that fun. And I actually think this is one of my favorite ones of the different series that they've done, because you have the ability to, once you've learned it, you kind of learn what to do really quickly, and then you can make it different or more challenging by just adding a couple of those expansions without really like messing with the way the game is played. And so on the base game side of things, you can retain a light game, but put in more content or more challenge or more variety. Now, there are some definite ones that are way different that you really have to think, okay, how does this all work and everything else? And so you do have the ability to add expansions that up the complexity. But if you want to play a light game and you don't want to just play the same light game over and over, you can vary out some of the different expansions which really don't increase the complexity, but definitely add to the variety and make for some interesting challenges. And you can also add those expansions on top of one another, kind of customizing the experience that you want. So I really have a lot of good things to say about Urbion. It hits the sweet spot for a light game that I'm looking for. I'm looking for something that I completely understand, that can be played quickly, that has virtually no setup time, and also, if I want, I can tweak it up a notch, or I can make it variable depending on how I feel. And so I definitely think that the second edition of this game is worth giving a shot at. It just came out, and I know the original. I never got to play the original because it was out of print before I could. And it was just like, oh, well, I guess I'm not going to be able to find that. So now that this is back in print, I highly recommend you give this a shot if you like these sort of games in the Oniverse. This one is definitely a keeper for me. So thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And whatever you do in the future, I really hope you have a fantastic time doing it. Take it easy, everybody.